failure is a gift to be used. Try to see the failure as just the stepping stone to getting better, because otherwise you, like I say, quit then, because there's no other alternative but to keep going forward. Failure isn't really failure, it's just moving you in a different direction.
Hello and welcome to Where Creatives Connect. My name is Jamie Sharp and this is the podcast that brings you the behind the scenes of creatives from all walks of life, whether they be actors, directors, musicians, singers, dancers, poets, you name it. I'll have them on and I'll do my best as a new interviewer to bring you the behind the scenes of their process, their lives and what got them to where they are today. I'm really excited today because not only is this an amazing actress, director, screenwriter, but also a good friend and somebody that I've been able to work with on a project over the last year. Caitlin Inez Edwards, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Tim. I felt that introduction was a bit too much.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Very nicely done. Though.
Thank you. I've been practicing it as I'm driving. That's my go-to.
I do that.
Do you?
I talk to myself when I drive like a crazy person. So
it makes it feel more legitimate if I'm doing it for a reason, and then I can just carry on the narrative that I'm just chatting away to myself. For the people that are just meeting you for the first time, imagine you are on the train. You have a chatty Cassandra chatting away to you.
Yeah.
And she wants to know what you do for a living. Right. I've mentioned a few things that you do. What's your go-to?
What would I say? In that situation with a chatty Cassandra, I'd say screenwriter. And then I'd probably maybe mention bits of acting. And the reason that is because what usually happens when you say you're an actor that's not someone who's of any kind of fame or recognition, people start going, oh, what have you been in then? What have I seen you in? And you've got to, then you kind of feel like you sit there justifying your own existence to this person, and you start to make up all sorts of stuff and fabricate yourself. And I used to do it and I don't now. But
been through it, done it.
But screenwriting is I think, isn't that awful that I feel that that's easier to talk about than acting, because there's a weird embarrassment with acting, because I'm a bit like, oh.
That's really interesting.
I know, because I think it's people assume there's a fame with acting, and if you're not famous, you're failed.
Yes.
And so that is an embarrassment. Isn't that awful that I'm embarrassed that I'm not a famous person?
No,
I'm an actor,
I think it's a really normal thing. And I see it a lot in music as well. Oh, what have I heard? Have I heard you on anything? And you're like, that's not
really
why I got into it. I'm not here to please you, my friend.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, do you ever cater that answer differently depending on who you see? So if you say you're working on a project with people that are in the industry, do you...
Oh, I'd say I was an actor.
Yeah, and just go straight to it.
Yeah, I'm saying, because they'd probably be like, they know how it is.
They get it.
Yeah. And I don't mean that in a kind of the general public of non-creatives don't understand. I don't mean that at all. No. But it's just, like I say, the embarrassment. But when you've got someone who's like, oh, we know why you haven't worked in 9 months, because that's the world.
Yeah.
It's easier to just say, I'm an actor and a screenwriter and all that kind of thing. And also, you've got a network, and if they can give you a job, you've got to get in there.
Absolutely. Oh, and here's my number and my card.
Yeah.
Take me back. Growing up, primary school, secondary school, were you... I mean, I've just interviewed your dad, and he has alluded to you being a very creative young person.
Yes.
But...
I wonder what he said.
I'll tell you. Actually, we'll talk about it in a bit.
Okay, we'll talk about that later.
But were you a young performer? Were there moments or opportunities that allowed you to get a taste of what the creative world is like? Therefore, your path was, set?
Yes. I was always the one to put my hand up first if there would be a performance opportunity, or you do a school play. And I was always really up for it. There was never any kind of like, oh, I'm a bit shy. But I'd say after that, I always loved theatre and film. And I did get the exposure, I guess, because I do remember at a very early age going on a TV set. And I can't remember I think it was Casualty years ago, because Dad was working on it. And I remember being on the set but it didn't quite infect me as much as theatre did. Theatre was my thing growing up. I just loved going. And I can really thank my mum for that. My mum pushed us to go to the theatre a lot because she worked in theatre, I guess. And then there was a bit of a gap when I went to high school. I just got interested in being a teenager, and it's
quite cool to be a teenager.
It is, and I wanted to be a cool teenager. So I'd say I tried to be.
We all try.
We all tried.
That's the main bit, trying.
Yeah, and then towards the end of sixth form, I got into hanging out with the theatre nerds. No offence, but you were theatre nerds. And I became a theatre nerd, but I was really proud of it, and I didn't care anymore. So that's when I started moving back into it.
Love it.
And I didn't want to be an actor at first. I wanted to do something creative in film. So my mum was a makeup artist, and then she moved into set design, and I wanted to be a makeup artist.
Oh, wow.
So when we were in the realm of doing work experience, I went and did work experience with a makeup girl on a TV show called... it was called Carrie and Barry, and it had Neil Morrissey in it. And what was really interested in that week though was that I shadowed this wonderful woman who was doing all the makeup, but I just found myself a bit more interested in what the actors were doing all the time. So I was watching the rehearsals and watching them before a take and all that kind of thing, and that was just way more interesting. And I said to my dad at the end of that week, yeah, thanks for setting this up, and I'm really appreciative, but I want to act. And I think he was a bit like, because he knows, he was very supportive, but he knows what it's like. And so he was like, okay.
If you must, then.
We'll see how we go, you know.
But what an amazing work experience. Yeah. Being able to do that and then also actually learn, that's maybe not the path for me right now or whatever, you know, compared to what you could do for work experience.
I could have gone to the garage and
you could have
done mechanics.
You might have been great at it. Who knows?
I might have been, I know. Yeah.
So would you say that there was some influence from your dad and your mum in their field of work that allowed you to maybe just understand what those worlds are like, but you also had your school theatre nerd passion as well?
Yeah.
So from there, did you go straight to university? Did you take some time off?
No, I went straight to... So I did sixth form, and then I knew I wanted to go to some sort of drama school. I didn't get in to nearly all of them that I applied for, but at the time, you know, hindsight's a great thing, because I was 18 and I was going up for RADA and stuff, and I just didn't get in.
Yeah.
Which... in the early days of you will get rejected if you go into this industry was hard, because it is hard, especially for an 18-year-old. You think you're invincible. But I did get into, I got into Bournemouth Arts Institute, and it was a great, because I'd had a week of failed auditions, and I was a bit over it, I think. I was like, oh, well, this is the last one. If it doesn't work out, then onwards and whatever. I'll think about that later. But it went so well. And then I got a place at Bournemouth, and so I went there. Yeah.
Do you know, rejection at that age is really interesting, because a lot of education, the way it's set up, is to not reject you. It's to just encourage you forward. And that's probably, apart from maybe boyfriends or girlfriends or friendships, that's kind of the first rejection you might get in your whole life properly. And it's a brutal one, because it's something you've decided for the first time. It's really hard. But again, sets you up quite nicely for the world of auditions.
Absolutely, all
of that.
I actually remember my first ever audition, which was for a drama course at Edinburgh, and I wasn't very good. And the person in the audition told me I should think about not being an actor, actually. Which
in the
audition, like, I was so bad. It wasn't that I was terrible. It's just I, for some reason, chose extremely dull audition pieces, which just had me standing there just saying something quite nice, and that was the end. And she said, she was like, I think if you want my advice, I would either go and do a foundation year and get the basics of acting down, or think about something else. And I remember hearing it, and this is coming into my narcissistic 18-year-old ears, going, what does she know?
I love it.
I remember
wow.
What do you know? And see you later. And she was absolutely right. But It was a good kicker though, because you do think you're invincible. I thought I was walking straight into RADA. I thought they'd be like, pay her to come here.
Please.
Yeah, but it wasn't the case at all. Of course it wasn't. Why would it be that?
But it's not that for really anyone. It's like one in...
Yeah, one in a million. Probably are some people that actually have that happen to them.
But we don't talk about them.
No, they
don't exist.
Exactly. And so there was a few knocks, but I think it has been a case in my personality going forward is that, I can take a knock, but all right, fine. I don't really care. Let's just keep going. I'm not going to let it beat me. That's fine. Yeah.
Let's stay when you're at Bournemouth. Were you a proactive creator of productions yourself, or were you part of a few different groups that you acted in? Were you instrumental in setting things up? Or
they were so good at Bournemouth at getting you to do your own work, because I think that would be a huge piece of advice for any creatives, is that you've got to keep yourself busy and create the work yourself. And they really hammered that into you. They were like, right, it doesn't matter if it's awful, this is the place to get it wrong. Around the second year was when they allowed you to be a bit more experimental, but they'd give you units where, okay, we're focusing on this aspect of acting. If you want to write something, go and do it and show it to the group. And I remember going, and because there were certain characters that I had in my mind that I wanted to do that I couldn't necessarily find in Chekhov or whatever we were doing. So I wrote it, and I found that I actually really enjoyed the writing, and that suddenly became I started getting quite good responses from the rest of the people watching. And I think at the start of it, I just wanted to make people laugh as a way to get response out of someone.
Well, it's an immediate response, isn't it? And you go, okay, that's winning or not.
Yeah.
With a laugh.
I just wanted people to find me funny in an insecure way. So that manifested into the writing. And then towards the end, in the final year, they got you to do like a final major project, which was if you wanted to write it yourself, which is I had a go at, which was Angelus.
Well, that's a nice transition.
Segue.
Very good indeed. Let's go straight there, because you've brought us there.
Wow.
Angelus. So one of the times that we have crossed paths was at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in 2015. And you brought Angelus to there, but it had a life before there down in London as well?
I'd done it as my final major project at Bournemouth. And then I wanted to, because I came out of Bournemouth and didn't have an agent or anything like that, or any prospect of getting any job. So again, do it yourself. And I hired a pub and we did a version of it above a pub in London for 2 nights, and it was free. It was a free hire the space night, which you probably unheard of now, actually. And then another year went by, and I'd rewritten it, and it was a nice process of writing is rewriting. So I'd rewritten the play every year for the 3 years after.
Oh, interesting.
I can't remember when I graduated. Oh yeah, it was 5 years between graduating and going to Edinburgh. So it was a 5-year. It was a very different play from what it was at Bournemouth. It evolved over 5 years, and just wanted to do it. And I found out that you were taking shows up. There was an opportunity, so let's do it.
Was that something that you actively knew was a good idea? It's almost like training, isn't it? It's analyse your work and improve it, analyse it, improve it. Was it a process that you just wanted to do to keep on developing? Yeah,
because I loved the idea so much, and it had got great response in its initial stages. I still do it now with my screenwriting. I've just rewritten something that I wrote 4 years ago again.
Okay.
Because you have to, because you change as a person, and in that 5 years of graduating, I changed, and therefore the work changed, so I needed to keep updating it. But Angelus in particular was just an idea that I just loved very, very much, so I just wanted to pursue it and see how far it went.
For the people listening, are you able to summarise what Angelus is about?
Yeah, of course. So the play, it's got 2 different versions. The play version is a boiling pot structure of a story about 2 angels who steal a book from God and they arrive in an unknown place, and their intention is that they want to go through the book and change the 10 Commandments and therefore change the world, because they're sick of God and being angels and they want to stick it to the man. But they find a dweller in purgatory. Sorry, I've just given the place away. They find a dweller who reveals that they're in purgatory, and therefore they're stuck, because in order to get out of purgatory, you have to redeem yourself from your sin, but then being angels have not got any sin, have they?
So they are, or have they? Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Very good.
Or have they? So but it was a comedy. I would again rewrite it because I think the social connotations of what I wanted to get out of the story were not deep enough. I just touched on them because I didn't quite understand. And it was all a little bit tongue-in-cheek. It was very kind of a Waiting for Godot style piece that I just wanted it about two characters set in one room, and it's all very funny. Again, trying to make people laugh as we found. So that's the story. Yeah.
Did I also see on a CV on the internet that you've written it as a TV pilot as well?
Yes, it does exist. It exists currently as a TV pilot, and it's actually been optioned by 2 production companies.
Oh, fantastic.
That project has been my door opener, and I don't know, this is the thing that's really interesting, I don't know if it'll ever see the light of day, that show, but what it has provided me is a way in with so many. It got me a writing agent, it got me my first option on a script. It then went a year with that company, didn't go any further. Another company picked it up. And so, again, the story of the TV version is different from the play. It's still about angels. It's still a comedy. But what happened after Edinburgh was that I was introduced to a producer through my dad who's read it and saw it and loved it. And she was like, think about this for TV.
Okay.
I'd never written a script before in my life for TV, and so there we go. We've got Angelus as the blueprint of how do you write it for TV now, or how do you write a screenplay for TV and film.
Yep.
And that's what it did. And but when I say that I've written that script 1,000 times, that would probably be an underestimation.
Really?
Yeah, I've rewritten it millions of times, and probably will continue to. It's been put in the drawer recently, and I think it needs a breath for me to go and evolve before I come back to it. But I don't know if it'll ever be made. But it's one of those.
I really like that as a functional project to get stuck into, because so many conversations I have about creativity is finding a new thing to do.
Yeah.
And what's your new ideas, or what have you recently been influenced by, and then you think, oh, I need to write a new track or a new idea. But actually, you can take all of that inspiration and bring it back to something that you have a base and an environment to play with it in. That's really interesting.
Yeah. It like I say, Angelus is my closest thing because it's evolved as I've evolved, as got older. So it's a match of me as in my work where I'm at the moment.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
Talking of your own work, recently I've been lucky enough to be working with you on Traveller, and thank you very much for having me on it. It genuinely was a brilliant project to be part of.
Oh, that's good to hear. Thank you for doing it.
And it's also so nice to see you in person as well.
Yeah.
Because for those of you listening at home, actually, do you want to explain what Traveller's all about? And then we can explain.
Traveller's a short film that I made when did I make it? 2021. And it's only just kind of it's taken me a year to in post. It's a short film that is about a woman travelling across dangerous terrain who makes friends with a horse, and it's a nice piece that explores communication between human and something non-human. And yourself, Mr. Jamie Sharp, was the composer on it that I dug up of my old contact lists. I thought, who can write music? Jamie Sharp. And I asked you to do it, and I loved working with you on it. And I'm not just saying it because we're on the podcast, but I think that was the music composing side of it was one of my favourite parts of the whole process, because I love film music anyway. I really do. And if I were to be born again and be able to choose a massive talent, it would probably be like music for screen, because I just love it so much. So I'm slightly in awe that you're able to do it.
Well, thank you very much. It was an amazing process, and we never met up.
No, we didn't. It was all over WhatsApp voice messages.
But that was really interesting in itself, because I hadn't really used voice notes ever in my life before.
Oh, really? I pushed it on you.
No, it was great because it allowed me to sing parts to you and then play parts to you. And sometimes when you write things down, you can't express the intent behind what you're trying to say. And that process was great for me.
Yeah.
It was very close to being in the room. It genuinely was really, really enjoyable, and the shots were so beautiful. It was quite a zen environment for me to just write in. And the way I wrote it is that I would loop sections, like quite small sections, maybe between two shots, and basically improvise in real time with different patches, literally on that keyboard right there, and just try and express what I thought would help support what was going on screen. It's interesting you mention about the relationship between human and non-human, because I view music as being the sort of non-human element that supports the human thoughts, or are larger than human thoughts. And one thing your dad said before was about when you were a child and you had this friend. You came down the stairs once and you had a friend called Ned. No, did he name it Ned? And we went down the path of he's writing the book about Ned and the Windbangers.
I was thinking it was a human friend, but just
no, don't think so.
It's a wind.
It
that sounds like it's not a human wind. It's like, I mean, Ned is a wind.
Yeah. But what a cool creative thought. And if you don't know what we're on about, you'll have to tune into David's podcast and find out. That seems to be something that you've had bigger thoughts and really interesting, creative, non-human thoughts.
I think
Are you human?
Am I? I know. So Traveller in the sense of that is because we owned a horse, me and my mum, for a good part of 20 years. She's not around now, sadly. She had a lovely life. But we used to practice this technique called natural horsemanship, which is a technique which uses horse body language, and it's a non-verbal communicative method that you use.
Wow.
But what's so interesting about this method is it goes beyond just horsemanship. It goes into kind of Zen qualities, goes into energy, consciousness, if we want to go down that road, all that kind of thing.
Okay, interesting.
And so that's what I wanted to put into Traveller. But Ned as well, I think I just said it as a flippant comment. Again, thinking about it, I think I came up with it because I wanted to make my dad laugh, because the idea of me going out every night, a wind takes me to other countries through the window and we have adventures, and I said it to make him laugh, and it just has never left him, and he's now writing it as a children's book. So yeah, something non-human, exactly. I think that's a theme in. If I were to kind of put all my projects in a line, I'd say the kind of common denominator was that there is someone's trying to access something outside of themselves that's not necessarily physical, or trying to tap into something existential. I think that's what the theme is running throughout. So it's obviously, if we want to get Freudian, it's obviously something that runs deep within me.
And I definitely got that from everything you sent over, even before there was sound on the clips. When I think of Traveller, I think of it as almost a flavour or a scent. It's got, like, if you say Traveller, I think of, I can't actually say it with words.
Yeah.
It's I don't think of the story. No. I think of the world of it.
Yes.
And maybe that's just the relationship I had whilst writing.
Yeah.
But the world was so clear on everything that came across. So.
Well, this is where music influenced that as well, because this is why I love film music so much, because it's putting into something non-verbal a feeling, right?
Yeah.
That's what music is.
Yeah.
And so the marriage of that and film with what we can see and what we can hear is an amazing marriage when we don't have dialogue. Because for those who haven't seen Traveller, there's one scene of dialogue in the whole film. The rest of it's silent apart from music. And I went to see, I'm a big fan of Michael Giacchino, the film composer, and I went to see him he had an anniversary at the Albert Hall, and J.J. Abrams came out and spoke. So he wrote the music to Lost, and he said that they were really struggling with a scene. It's one of the series where they're leaving the island, and it wasn't working. There was just something in the edit that he wasn't getting across. And he said they gave it to Michael, and Michael wrote this score, and suddenly he'd found the missing ingredient of the scene, and suddenly it all made sense just from the sound that Michael created. And I find that utterly amazing and fascinating. That's why I love film music so much. And you do a lot of the job for us sometimes. And I think there's the fine balance of not emoting for the audience, but just enhancing is
it's like a gateway kind of element. One thing I found really fun and fun's a rubbish word for it, but enjoyable, is the communication between you and me when it was you were trying to explain what you wanted, but it wasn't in musical speak, it was in emotive speak. And that was brilliant because having been through music college and you can think very technically about something, I think a lot of the years past music college for me have been undoing, or not, maybe not undoing, but marrying what the technicalities are to what it means to be a human as well.
Right.
And when you would explain the essence of a scene or the intention behind a moment, that was really exciting for me, because I thought, okay, well, how can that sound? And that can sound a million ways.
And what was beautiful for me with that actually was that I think what I learned a little bit about myself and Traveller is that I can be a little bit of a control freak, and I think I get an idea about I want it to be like that. But you offered sometimes stuff that I never thought of, but I like more. And I think, that's so nice. I'm going to...
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, I think... Because I don't know if I'd do this again, but I edited the film to other soundtracks to give me just an idea of what I want to feel during this thing. But the problem is you get used to that sound and then you start... So what I felt was I was trying to push on you was try to do that.
I'm with you.
And just in your own way, but still hit the intention. But actually, when you would send me back the scene with your composition on it, and it'd be different, but I'd be like, oh, I'm looking at that scene differently now, and I like it more. And now I'm going to just slightly re-edit it because I like that. So that was the beauty of that collaboration, because it was you kind of, I liked being surprised by someone who's not me.
It's quite refreshing, and you're absolutely bang on. It's so hard when you have an image tied to music and you've seen it again and again and again to try and shake that off. And I find that, again, if I've written something myself and I have to do a redraft or whatever, sometimes it's really hard to press a reset button and just move away from it or let it go. It's an interesting part of the process.
It's good to step away and give yourself a break from something, come back with it with fresh eyes, because I think I've had that with scripts and I'm like, oh dear, that's just not working.
Past me was not on the money there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Moving on to your acting side of your career, you have had some really exciting projects, including Blackmirror, which I remember watching. I was on holiday and I'd just been in a spa, I think maybe for the first time in my life, actually.
Right.
And I went and watched about 3 episodes of Black Mirror back to back, and I didn't know you were going to be on it as well. That was very exciting.
Oh, was that? And you were like, did you recognise me?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, I guess I look like me, don't I?
Yeah.
Didn't change my face.
That was very cool. You've more recently been on Hanna.
Yes.
Talk me through the process of getting the script through, or the logistics of this is when you'll be there through to a read through. Oh, actually, you tell me. What's the whole process like?
I mean, it's been different every single job. But talk about Black Mirror, that was very quick. I hadn't had an audition in ages, and I was really down, and I kind of made the decision, this is me, I get dramatic and I quit. And I'm like, this is the end. I'm not doing it anymore. And then I got the audition on a Monday, which I went to do. It was an in-person audition, which was lovely. And then I got it on the Wednesday, and by the Thursday I was in the table read, and then I was filming it the week after. So this is the madness of the industry, is that you go months with nothing and then everything all in a week. And
you have to be flexible enough with your setup to be able to drop and
just go and do it. Yeah, which luckily I was. And I mean, depending on whatever side hustle job you have, I wouldn't be like, oh, I've got a shift. Sorry, I can't.
Yeah, sorry guys, sorry.
I've got a shift. So that was quick. Hanna was a much more kind of stressful, in the sense of I did a self-tape for it, but originally for a part that was different from the one that I ended up doing in another episode. And I did the self-tape, and then from the self-tape I then got the audition. So
it's a longer process.
Yeah, so I had to then go in and work in an audition with the director, who was a fantastic director. and she got me to do it 1,000 different ways. It was a really nice scene, and it was an American. It was the first time I was doing an American accent, which was, I got nervous because when I went in, the producer was American, and I was like, oh, there's an American in the room. I'm
going to be found out here.
Yeah,
oh, no.
So the nerves were up. And then I did that, and then I didn't hear again. I went 3 months, and I thought I've just not got it.
Yeah.
And you get on with your life.
Yeah.
But then they called back and said, can you retape for another character, because the last character has been changed. Like the one that you originally auditioned for doesn't exist anymore. They've changed.
So it's been written out.
Yeah, they changed the script. But can you retape for this new character? And I feel really sorry for my partner because I made him self-tape with me. It took me, I just couldn't get it, and it took us 3 hours to do one scene, and I was really stressed. It was horrible, and he sat and he didn't say a word. Bless him. Keeper, and then we got it from there, and then it was really nice. It was a 3-month film, and we filmed in Barcelona, which was lovely. It was gorgeous out there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I got to do like gun training and driving a big car and shooting people. It was a great job.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think it's been my favourite job. Hannah's been my favourite job.
With something like Hannah, where there'd been a number of episodes out before yours, are you brought up to speed with where it's at? Because some of them might have not been aired, so you might have not been able to even watch them before you're shooting. Is there like a continuity conversation that goes on before, or are you just thrown in like, here's your scenes, let's go?
A little bit. I mean, the first series had been out, so I'd watched the first series, and but I come in at the end of the second series, and I was only allowed to read the episode before my episode, so I didn't really know what had happened prior. And it is a thing of they can't, because they just can't release. Yeah. So I didn't really know. Obviously, I know what's going on with me and my character and all that kind of thing. But
the greater context is
like where the rest of the characters have come from. I didn't know, which is okay, because I guess playing it as a part you wouldn't know, or not, unless it informs your storyline, of course. But
because you've got experience as a writer, some producing, some directing. Would you say when you are on set as an actor, you've got a greater awareness of how your role fits in within the greater good, rather than just being all about you in that moment? Do you find that helpful when you're working on set?
The two definitely complement each other, and I have, as in the kind of last 5 years, I have realised how much acting is a form of storytelling, and so you do have to understand your role within that story and what you need to do to help everyone else and help the director achieve what they need to achieve. And screenwriting has definitely helped that, especially the lovely marriage between the two is dialogue, because dialogue's really hard to write, and when you're an actor, because you're so used to trying, you have to be truthful and you have to make dialogue sound like it's completely believable. When you go and write, you've got to you write with that ear, because if I was an actor saying this, how would I say it, and how do people speak in life, and how do I put that in? So that is a really nice marriage, and what I've found, it does help in terms of to know what's coming and ahead, how, like I said before, like how your role fits within. What's nice about acting is that you just got your character to think about, whereas writing, you've got everyone.
Yeah, you've got to tie all the strings together.
Exactly. There's a lot more to think about, whereas I quite like going and acting because I'm just, I just sort Grant out and everyone else. Directors can sort all the...
Do your jobs, guys.
Yeah. Which is nice.
Can we talk about auditions?
Yes.
And broader than that, well-being and mental health around all of that kind of stuff. You've mentioned when we were chatting before that a lot of the auditions until recently have been self-tapes because of COVID.
Yeah, I mean, they'd come in, self-tapes had been around before, but now, especially after COVID, they are the norm now. And I think they are a little bit of the gateway you do before you then go in the room. It's not that, depending on how big the part is, but it's not that common to just get the job from the first self-tape. It's then you either do another one or you go in and work with the director. And I find them quite hard. I've got better at them because you have to, because they are here to stay. When you've got free reign to do it, you can overthink a lot, and then you start looking at like what you look like, and it's like, oh, I don't look pretty in that, so let's re-record it. It shouldn't be about that. It's ridiculous. So yeah, the auditions in general, some of the best actors I know are terrible auditioners.
Really?
Yeah, because they're different. They're so different from what it will be like on the day. You're in a room with someone who's usually not an actor reading in with you, and it's nice to have the director there because they can direct you. But in a self-tape, you've got your partner who's got in from work and he's tired and he doesn't want to do it. And then the lights are not working and whatever. It's a small nightmare. But it has opened up a bigger opportunity because they get to see more actors for a part now because they can get the tapes in.
Yeah.
And so I'd say the opportunities have got better. But getting the part is probably harder now as well. Yeah.
What would you say is some good advice for people that are auditioning, maybe getting a lot of rejections, or because inevitably you're probably going to get more rejections than you do offers. How do you balance that in your head?
It's really hard. I'd say the hardest thing about it is the not getting to do it on that rejection side. You've just got to get used to it. I guess I don't know if that's helpful to say it, but the alternative
realistic. I
it
suppose.
is, yeah. But the alternative is that you don't do it anymore. It's really one or the other, and it's inevitable that you will get that. And you can go down the road of thinking, yes, of course, because usually it's not personal. As long as you do the work of what you are in control of, which is your own craft, and you do have a semblance of control over what you look like. I'm not saying get surgery, or I don't mean that kind of thing, but like the things that you are in control of, be in control of to the best of your ability, and then it makes it better if the feeling better when you're rejected because you think I did my best. Okay, and there'll be 1,000 reasons why you don't get that part,
and you'll never necessarily know them.
Exactly. And I've been on the other side of the audition process, and I've actually seen that sometimes the best actors don't get the part. There's just a quality that they need for the story that person delivers, and it is a little bit Wheel of Fortune. Obviously, good actors will work because that's what we do. But it doesn't necessarily being the best actor doesn't mean the part. But balancing that kind of keep your head together in the down times. There's lots of things that you can do. I've definitely got better at it because I think going back to my slightly narcissistic qualities of like, I have some semblance of me that thinks that I should be doing it, and I can. I do have the sabotage voice, which just tells you you're crap all the time. Don't get me wrong. But it's the lucky thing is that you get the opportunity to manage that, which is in a weird way to say it's lucky, but I do think failure is a gift to be used. I do think.
I like that.
Yeah. And I've definitely tried to, especially in the last year where I'd say last year's been a year of failure. I wouldn't really say there's been a lot going on that's gone well. But have I learned from all those failures? Absolutely. And have they made me better at the work? Yes, 100%. So try to see the failure as just the stepping stone to getting better. Because otherwise you, like I say, quit then. Because there's no other alternative but to keep going forward. Failure isn't really failure. It's just moving you in a different direction.
It's adjusting you along your path.
Yeah.
You very helpfully voice noted me a quote from an actress a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the struggle when you're not creatively fulfilled.
Yeah.
Can you remember what that quote was?
Yes, that was it was Joanna Lumley, who's recently won a BAFTA. She's an incredible actress. I remember listening to her talking. I think she was on a podcast, but she was talking about this period she went through where she stepped back from acting because life took over. She had to get a job. We all have a mortgage to pay. And she went and worked, I don't know what it was, probably maybe something in an office or something. And she became ill within a year, very ill, and was in the hospital. And without anything that was kind of able to be diagnosed entirely, I might be completely misquoting Joanna on this, don't get me wrong, but the doctor in the hospital said to her, it's really a form of depression that's taken over you, and it's because you're not doing what you should be doing. So you need to go back and do what it was you were doing before. And she went back to acting, and suddenly her life was better
transformed,
and her health was better. And I do genuinely believe that our ailments can come from that state of mind where we're not ourselves. We're not being true to ourselves, is to say it kind of in a slightly fairy tale way, but it is. It's when, and I think you know it as well, when you know something's not right, but perhaps the expectations on you or responsibilities on you are there. You have to do that, because don't get me wrong, we have to, because it'd be lovely to just sit and write all day, but I've got to pay the mortgage. You might have children and you have a family to provide for, so it becomes bigger than you, but you also have to explore that creative side if it's there, because otherwise I do think it becomes stagnant in you and it'll make you ill. It really will.
That's it really stuck with me, that, because I'm constantly reevaluating how I'm spending my time. And that's honestly one of the reasons why I've started the podcast, is to learn from people like yourself, be able to reflect on what I'm doing, also connect with people in similar fields, but a bit like in a Venn diagram, you sort of cross over a little bit, but then they've got a whole world that I can learn from, and we can share ideas. And one thing that I see quite commonly at the moment is creatives that are immensely creative, but they've also got skills that allow them to do that either part-time or full-time or whatever job. And they feel that because they can do that, they should. And you get you get paid, you get good response from it or whatever. And then you get stuck, because in that job, you don't necessarily have people that you can talk to like this, and that understand there is something else. There's another part of you. It's a bit like you take off the suit or the whatever, and then you are actually yourself. And that's a very hard thing, because it can't come from somebody else. It's got to be a self-reflective.
Yes, absolutely.
Understanding.
And I do hear things said to you like, try to surround yourself with like-minded people, which isn't as easy sometimes, because I don't know, you might be married to one, or or your job is about. But I do think you do key into energy when you're when you're with certain people who are like-minded. It does fuel you, and likewise the opposite when people have kind of antagonistic ideas against what you're doing. I do think a little bit of conflict is quite good though, because it does. Does spur you on, and you should always be challenged, I think.
It's healthy, isn't it?
It's healthy, yeah.
It's a bit like the cold water plunging that's very popular at the moment. It doesn't feel that great when you first do it, but I know it's good for you.
It's good for you.
I have dug out some photos
of
you in various different parts of your life, or work. Don't worry, it's nothing personal.
Where have you got these from?
So, a bit like, if you're watching, I've stolen this directly from Hot Ones, where they do explain this gram or expand this gram, but it's not on Instagram, it's just parts of your work. So I'm going to show you the picture, and if you're just listening as well, please go onto YouTube so you can actually see the photo, and it'll be a much better experience for you. First one.
Leaf Blower was, that's a short film that I made, and lovely Guy Henry, who's an actor, came to be in it for me, and it was the first thing. The idea came from my dad, actually, because the story is about a disgruntled man who's been fired, and he's now a leaf blower, and he's all the way through he's talking about being fired, but he's filling something up with leaves, and at the end we revealed that he's filled his boss's car full of leaves, and it's a strike of revenge. But it was an idea that my dad had, because he'd had a really stressful time at work, and he went out for a cigarette, and he was watching someone across the way who was a leaf blower, and
brilliant.
He thought, I wish I was doing that today instead of what I'm doing. And I thought that's really interesting that we think maybe we should be doing that, doing a different thing.
Yeah.
So that's what I put into this story. And it was lovely. It was a horrible shoot, I'm not going to lie. It was a baptism of fire, because
it was all in one day.
All in one day. Yeah. Everything went wrong. It rained. Anything that could have gone wrong did. But it actually turned out to be quite a nice little film, and it got into a couple of film festivals. So that was nice, yeah.
Is this the one that you pulled some verbatim text from?
Yes.
Can we say that?
Yeah. Yes, it's from I listened to a corporate. Oh, I'm so sorry to this person. I don't know who it is.
They're never going to find out.
They're never going to see it. Alleged lawsuit. I watched a corporate video of it was my dad had done it for this company, and it was the CEO of this
nameless company.
This nameless company we shall not name, talking about whatever it was that he did. But the dialogue he used was all very, very the words of a corporate CEO, which was things like innovation, things like that. And I basically took what he said and put it into the script.
Brilliant.
Into the script.
I love it.
Yeah.
Being very resourceful.
Okay, Snow Maze. I only had a tiny little part in this. It was a really beautiful short film that was adapted from a children's book, and I believe the director is Sam Cadman. And it was shot in a school on the coldest day I've ever experienced. And what was really nice though is working with these funny little children, and one of the children in it is now in Happy Valley as Ryan in Happy Valley was one of the little boys in it. Oh wow, that's a short film called 5 Minutes, and so this actress in there is Chizzy Akadolu, and she wrote it and is in it. This is actually the first time I ever did any screen acting, and I was very nervous, and I would, in a kind of strange way, I would watch it back and say I wasn't very good in it because I didn't really know what I was doing in terms of acting. But it's a nice little film. It's quite a sad story, and I'm playing a paramedic in it, and it's
is the idea she's had a crash and you're telling her she's got 5 minutes.
She's got 5 minutes to live, and what happens to her in the 5 minutes is that she flashes back to the most important people in her life, and they appear in the car with her. So her mother's suddenly there in the car with her, and they talk about something, and then her boyfriend's there, and then I'm the paramedic that's kind of talking her over as she's slowly dying. It's quite...
That's an amazing concept, actually.
Yeah, it was good. It was nice. We shot it in the woods in Barnet. And what was really funny when we were shooting is right in the middle of a take, a dog walker came up to us and just went, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" And we had
with the cameras round and everything.
Full set.
What does it look like?
Yeah, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" during a take, and we had to cut, and we had to just inform this woman that we were in fact shooting a short film, and she was on her way.
I hope you've got that footage somewhere.
I think we do. Yeah, I think we do.
Fantastic. Go on a show reel.
Yeah. Smithereens, Blackmirror. This was a really, really great job, and mainly because I got to work with Andrew Scott, who's an unbelievable talent. What was really funny actually was in my scene, I'm talking to him through the phone, and I had this earpiece in, and it was the director was reading the lines into my ear. Which was really...
it the Bluetooth?
Yeah,
you were in an office setting.
Yeah, we were in this office, which was the hottest. My hair is so sweaty in it because it was. We were in this glass office, and it was a really hot day, and the place just turned into some sort of sauna.
Oh,
and
my
I was
gosh!
dripping with sweat.
Just what you need.
Just what you need. It was really nice. The director was talking into my ear, like feeding his lines through, and it was amazing to work with Charlie Brooker as well because he's so clever as a person, genius of a man. So that was it was one of these kind of things, like, because I was a fan of the show, that you go, oh, I'm actually involved in it now. It's that was a favourite. Yeah.
Are you told about the whole episode when you are in a part of it, or is that left to...
When I was auditioning, I just had the scene.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got the part, they sent the script through, and I remember feeling so like, I can't believe I'm reading this.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it's no one else has seen it. And then we did the table read, but they're quite hot on obviously not leaking anything, so it was quite tight on the old security. But no, I knew, because those fans of Black Mirror, they're standalone episodes, so they're like a little movie in an episode, so it was good.
I'm a big fan of Black Mirror. I love it.
Oh, Alexa, that was an episode of Casualty. My first TV part was Doctors, and then I got this Casualty. So I got 2 medical dramas in quite close succession. But this was nerve-wracking because I had to have a seizure in it, and I had to research how to have a seizure, which was quite unpleasant.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting because there's an on-set medic who comes and talks to you about all the medical stuff, and he was like, this is what happens. It was a good story. It was a slightly mad storyline. I'd got cyanide poisoning from eating too many apricot kernels.
Whoa.
Because, believe it or not, there is 0.05 amount of cyanide in a apricot kernel.
I will watch out for that in the future.
So
Thanks.
don't eat a bagful because you'll die. And
Gosh.
cyanide poisoning. And he also told me that if you do go into seizure from having cyanide, you've got 30 seconds to administer the one antidote there is. Otherwise, you will die.
Did you die?
No, I pulled through.
Oh, well done.
I know. The doctor in that magic 30-second window worked out what it was, got the antidote and got it
Good thing they were
administered.
there.
Good job, I was there, exactly. I was in the hospital and they did it. So I remember when I was doing that feeling like I wasn't quite worthy of being there, which was my kind of imposter syndrome kicking off, which is still there. But I did enjoy it because the other actors were so nice and it was just good to do. It's just good to do these shows, you know.
I should add a similar question to this. I asked him about if he had to direct any extreme scenes such as murders or it's all the extremes of life, marriages, giving birth, etc., etc. This sounds like it's one of them.
Oh yeah, this is where I think that's why I got nervous, because it was out of territory of anything I'd experienced. So research is everything, and also this is where you've just got to. It's quite hard because you've got to go there for it to be believable, and you have to put your mind in quite horrible places sometimes, and then learn to get rid of that, because
drop it at the other end.
Drop it at the other end, because it does stay in your body, I think.
Yeah.
And especially quite emotional stuff. I know actors that do these long runs of theatre plays where they have to be extremely emotional, and you can lose your mind doing that. So be careful, because learn to let it go at the end of the day, but also go there, because it's your job to do that kind of thing. It can be quite horrible, but create that separation. But going into the realms of kind of health problems and being very ill, the observation of people's real lives of that is quite eye-opening, and you think, wow, some people
have to witness this a lot.
Yeah Oh gosh, that's Angelus at Edinburgh, and they're my two amazing co-stars. This is David England at the front and Paul Sloss. What a staged photo that is. I don't know what we were thinking we were going to use that for. Lovely. I love working with those guys though. And do you know, Dave at the front is a brilliant actor, and I remember actually it's nice to write something and watch other actors do your writing, especially if they do it. I remember during a moment on stage watching Dave do his work and thinking, he's amazing. What he's doing right now is amazing. And it was that's more complimentary than me doing it, I think.
Yeah.
That was such a nice feeling when someone else was bringing out something absolutely fantastic. So that was a really nice moment. Yeah.
When you were writing this, you knew Paul for a long time.
Yeah.
You've known Paul for a long time. Is that the same for?
I trained with David, so he was on my course at Bournemouth, and he's he's from Yorkshire, he's from Harrogate in Yorkshire, and he's got he's so funny and brilliant, and he's very good at improvisation and just being a silly Billy, and he played that as a Yorkshireman as well, that part, because this is the purgatory dweller who's really mad but sinister and nasty as well, has got this understraight, and he did such a great job. So I'd work with him again in a heartbeat. He was brilliant.
Do you feel that because you knew the actors that would be performing it, you were able to change, or did you decide to change any text or delivery or anything in your writing?
Yeah, I like, maybe it's a laziness of mine, but I like actors to... if they want to say something or change the line, I'm really happy for them to do it, because I think if it feels right and if it's genuinely really good or
go
funny,
with the best.
Do it. Yeah, I'm not precious about changing lines or anything like that.
It's a very healthy way to be.
Yeah. Hannah. Yes, so that's the truck that I got to drive, and it was really fun to drive.
Did you say Barcelona?
Barcelona. That is Spain, but it was made to look like Morocco, because there's areas of Spain that are quite deserty. And this was in the middle of Barcelona, the one on the phone. And it was so nice because I got to work with an American actress called Mireille Enos, who honestly is, I think, one of the best actresses I've worked with, because she's mastered that art of doing absolutely nothing at all when she acts. And then you watch it back on the on the monitor, and it's like all there. And
Yeah.
she was and also just a wonderful actress. And what was so nice is she had her daughter on set with her the whole time, and I thought, oh, this is nice, right? Because I think there's something in female artists that you think, can I have a family?
Mm-hmm.
Can I sacrifice? Am I giving up my career to have a family? So watching Mairead be a mum in between takes, and then she would just turn it on and do the scene, and then as soon as we call cut, she's mum again because Vesper's there, who's
That's amazing.
5 years old, yeah.
And
she's back on, and she said she was lucky because she's allowed to have her children on set. That's she's the top billing in the show, so of course she would.
Mm-hmm.
And her husband is an actor as well. He's Alan Ruck, who's in Succession. He plays Connor Roy in Succession. So they have 2 children. Connor had their son and she had their daughter on the set as they were working.
Wow.
So they were being parents at the same time as acting. And I thought, oh, look at that. Amazing. You can have them and you can do it. So
it's really important for that to be seen, and it gives hope, but it also lays out a path of how it can be done.
Yeah.
For so many people, because you're right. A lot of people will, change their life plans, their big life plans, based on what they think might not be doable.
Yeah.
Like having children on set.
Yeah. I think it's getting better as well because there's childcare options on sets now. If you've got a group of actors who have children, they have childcare options available during working hours that you can bring your children, which was unheard of at one point and absolutely not an option, but it's getting better now. So
fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, Traveller, there we go. How beautiful is the horse?
Stunning. And a brilliant actor as well.
That horse, I think, was a better actor than me and Scott Williams. Sorry, Scott. Scott's an incredible actor, and he was. But the horse was amazing.
Yeah.
There's a scene in Traveller where I couldn't believe my eyes when I look back at the rushes, because it's when we're approached by a dangerous man and I'm sorting stuff out in my camp and the horse is stood behind me and we hear a crack and we look up and there's a man there and the horse, he's called Spotty. We call him Spot for obvious reasons because he's a leopard-spotted Appaloosa. He looks at the man and he stops chewing and he breathes out like, what the hell is that? And then he kind of like looks at me. And when I watched the rushes, I was like, what's he doing?
Is this alien magic going on? Yeah.
It was incredible. So it was wonderful working with him. I wouldn't say that you would find a horse that would be able to do stuff so easily and magically. He was so amazing. But I think that's testament to his owners. Adrian and Gisette, who own him, are they worked with him so well and got him into a state of pure trust. And he was just magical to work with. That's been my favourite. He's one of my favourite scene partners, though.
Hello, I hope you are enjoying the podcast so far. Please do give it a like and a subscribe if you are. If you're listening and you're thinking, oh, I'd quite like to check out Traveller that Caitlin's talking about, you can't quite yet, because in the first 12 months it's doing its rounds of all of the film festivals. However, in August 2023, I'll make sure that on my social media I'll do lots of posts and links for you to go and check that out. So if you're not already following me on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter, head over there and do that, and make sure you're subscribed here, because I'm sure I'll do another post nearer the time. If you really can't wait that long, I do have a little gift for you. If you're watching or listening to this, it means that the soundtrack is now live on Spotify or Apple Music, probably Amazon Music as well. I was lucky enough to write this for Caitlin, and I'm really proud of everything that is on there. So head over to Spotify, type in my name, Jamie Sharp and Traveller, and you can have a listen to the soundtrack. On with the podcast.
So that's been my most current thing, Traveller. So that's going out to film festivals at the moment, and we've got into 4 already, which is great. It's been an amazing thing, Traveller, because I watch it back and I think it achieved more than I thought it would in terms of the final product, but I do have learned so much from it in the terms of its failures as a film have been its greatest success for what it has delivered to me in terms of understanding filmmaking and getting up and putting something together, the work needed to create something. And I have that as a product now, and I think, okay, I don't think it's the best thing in the world. Admittedly, I think the story doesn't quite make sense, or it doesn't quite hit the beats from an audience perspective who's not so close to it like I am, which is, again, the failure has been the greatest tool of it. So well done, Traveller, for achieving that.
When you do projects like Traveller
Yeah.
or Leaf Blower or Angelus, does that ignite your fire to keep on developing new work, or do you feel at the end of it, were you completely exhausted and burnt out and you went, okay, I want a break for 6 months on work?
I go straight on to the next project, and I don't know how healthy that is, to be perfectly honest with you, Jamie. I think that comes from a thing of, if I'm not seem to be working as hard as possible, I'm failing, and it's hard to, I think I get guilt, especially, if you go on holiday and I'm thinking, should be writing at home, should be working really hard, and you've got to give yourself a break, because you can't physically just work 24/7 and be cracking it out. There's the downtime is the work as well. And so but I do like to get to the end of a project and let it rest as it is for a while before throwing it in the bin and starting again. But not necessarily like the same project. I might move on to a different one for a while and then come back to it and rewrite it. But I think I learned so much from it during the process that by the end of it, I'm actually a different creative, and therefore,
that's really what it's all about.
Yeah,
isn't it? Growing and allowing yourself to be doing something that develops you rather than just fizzles you out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the point of it.
That's the point of it, exactly. And who's the artist? The famous artist just burnt his work after finishing it all the time, because it was like, that's done now, and
move on, don't look back.
Yeah, so it's, I don't know if I'd do that to an extreme, because you think, okay, fine, but what are you doing it for at the end of the day? And creative work in terms of music and everything is something to be shared, right? So it does need an audience to a certain extent, and you will learn more from audience reaction, because it's an expressive thing that you're trying to share with other people. So
it takes on a different life of its own when you share it. I was listening to a friend of mine, Tom Harrold, who's a film composer, talk the other day, and he was saying that when somebody is in the room and you're playing the music to them, the music sounds different to him because he's aware they're listening, and even just their presence before they've even fed anything back, it genuinely sounds different. And I went, oh my God, I've never thought of it that way, but that's exactly right.
I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Or even just watching somebody watch your work is quite an interesting thing. It was interesting going back to working with you or working on projects where I've had to send work off and wait for a reaction. That's a really unusual time in your head, because if you're super busy, you can send it off and go on to your next thing and just think, okay, in an hour or two, I might hear back and then I can jump back to it. But then sometimes even just the absence of a response can colour in what you think they might be thinking about your work as well. And it's a whole cacophony of thoughts.
And you become quite influenced by other people's reactions. And I guess, is it coming from a place of you're trying to please that person?
Sometimes, it can do.
And you think, I just want you to like me, and I just want you to be happy with what I've done and validate my existence, please. And I think we're trying to do that on some existential level, but I wonder whether the goal is to try to get past that and create the work as a sharing process, be okay with it being awful, and then going, okay, fine, let's go back. And
that is also a nice feeling when you go, yeah, that's rubbish, let's scrap that, let's go.
Being okay with going, this is a part of
sucks,
this is awful. I wrote something last year that I think was written for the wrong reasons, and it's my worst work, because I know that in hindsight, but because I was writing it to try to please someone else, because I was stressed about my this is in the writing world. I was stressed that I wasn't achieving what I thought I should be achieving and getting more script commissions or whatever, or getting someone to pick it up, and therefore I was trying to guess or create something that I thought would sell or that person would go, and what I ended up with was just a Frankenstein's monster of a mess, and it's very horrible. And I sent it to my agent, and she was like, it's not great. And I was like, I know it's absolutely awful, isn't it? And we were just like, what do we do about it? I think we put it in the bin. But it really it really taught me that I'd fallen into the trap of trying to please the man or the industry of what I thought was going to work, and it just wasn't. It was bad. So.
But again, that's another great realization of that's what I'm like in that mental state of trying to please somebody that also you're guessing at what they might be saying rather than what they're actually saying, which is probably not that bad half the time.
Absolutely, absolutely true.
Two things I want to touch on before we wrap this up. Number one is work that supports your creative work. So jobs, side jobs or side gigs. How have you in your career chosen those jobs so that you've got flexibility of time when things do happen, but you've also got enough work when there isn't creative work happening? How have you chosen?
Early days, I did restaurant jobs, bar jobs, which was the flexibility aspect was completely there, which was good, and it was also kind of quite fun. But I'm talking about early 20s, so you've got the energy in you to stay up till 1 a.m.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to London, it continued into restaurant work, but now it's moved. I was lucky enough just before the pandemic. I was lucky enough to have worked creatively enough to support myself for a while, and I'd say it was the first time in a long time that I was just living off acting and writing, which was a really beautiful feeling. Pandemic arrives. Hello. Yeah, that all went out the window. But coming out the end of that, I thought, okay, I don't want to be forever working in hospitality because I'm getting to an age now where it's just quite draining. So, okay, think about skills that you have that you can do as a side hustle. So that's moved into kind of doing presenting work and copywriting and writing for articles and things like that, which is actually very enjoyable. Script reporting, book reading and reporting, things
and
like
I
that.
bet all of those skills feed into writing, performing, acting anyway, because you're constantly informing and growing as a person anyway.
Yeah, and it's really good to read, especially the script reading job was brilliant because I'm reading scripts all day, and it's a very I wouldn't say do that forever, that job. I'd say take what you can from it because it's just good to read, but maybe don't do it forever because you can get stuck and it can get quite arduous reading scripts all day.
What is to come in the near future? I see that you are a voiceover on a game.
Yes, which it's not out yet. I did that ages ago. It was a very fun job. I when you are in a video game, I had to be in a fight, and so I had to, for an hour in a booth, be like, like that.
Pow.
Yeah. And he was like, can you do it a bit more guttural? So I'm like, like you've been punched in the stomach.
Wow.
It's a I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it. Yeah, I'm allowed to talk about it. It's a space. I'm not a gamer, sorry to those, but it's a game called Squadron 42 Star Citizen, all set on a spaceship, and I'm the girl that's getting punched, and also the ship announcer. So
Are you going to play it when it comes out, though? You've got to get it. No. Try it. Have a night. Is it... I'm not a gamer either. Is it a PlayStation game?
I don't know. I think it'll be across the it might be across the board. Let's say it's been a very long time coming though, so I don't know. I don't know when it's going to come out. But it was very fun to do. I'd happily do a video game again.
Very exciting. Now, one of the closing traditions on this podcast, as you can see from this book, which actually, if you're watching, you can get 10% off on these wonderful books. They're from Dingbat's Notebooks. And this is my guest book. It's got a lovely elephant on the front. They're sustainable. Look at this. I'm going to put it right up to that camera there. How lovely is that? Nice. And this is a guest book filled with comments from all of the people that have been on here, which is not loads yet, but it will be at one point.
Oh.
And the last person that was on this was your dad.
Yes.
And the tradition will be that people write a question to forward on to the next guest.
What's he written?
He has written, how difficult do you find your creative process, and what do you do if it dries up?
Ooh. What's been really good, actually, the last year, I've worked a lot in getting out of my own way, because if I sit down to write, I have probably the routine I've got into is like 2 hours of just having a fight with myself. Do you find that as well?
Oh, yeah.
Reading back what you've already written, having a fight with yourself, getting all the sabotage words out, and then suddenly there'll be a time in the afternoon where suddenly that all goes away and I'm in,
and it flows.
And then you're in the flow, which is great. But it is difficult. But I do think if it weren't difficult, I don't know, anything that's worth doing is never easy. And so I think if it was just so easy, there's a problem. The work is easy then, isn't it? And I know that's nice sometimes, but especially in a screenwriting capacity, if it's too easy, then it's too easy. So go. You have to work very hard. But getting out of your own way is a big thing. And when it dries up, I think in my small experience, when I've had a really bad writing day, there might be one line that's great in the whole day that you have to mine away, and you might just get that little bit of a diamond at the end of it. And I think, okay, that horror show I've just been through has actually been worth it just for that little bit. And it's been maybe even 2 lines or something like that, and you think, oh great, okay, today's work is done. Next day you think it's all coming out of you and it's great, and then maybe you'll read it the day after and it might be an absolute pile of turd. But yeah, it's the fight with yourself, isn't it, every single day. And I hear about painting artists in front of a canvas. It's a fight, and getting it out there. And I guess that's the work. That's the art and the work, isn't it?
Very wise words to finish yourself on. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
And your energy. And I look forward to seeing more work in the future.
I mean, let's hope, eh?
Hey, well, fingers crossed.
Who knows?
Maybe we'll go back to the mechanic stuff.
Yeah, I need to start again. And that's not Real Elephant, is it? No.
No. It's a sustainable, non-real elephant.
Oh, yeah, well, it would make sense.
Yeah, because elephants aren't that sustainable.
No.
Not that I know of. The one behind you, what's it got on? Has it got an octopus or something?
It's a tree. Oh no, it's coral with
seahorse
seahorse and a turtle.
They're not sustainable either, so I don't think it's made out of that.
Oh, but
how nice does that feel?
It does look nice, and that looks like an elephant's skin. I think that's what I meant. I didn't mean if it was a real elephant.
I better check that before I put this out, because I could be promoting something awful here.
There we go.
If you're still listening, thank you very much. Please do get in touch. The more I hear back from you about what you want to hear or guests you might want to hear on the podcast, the better I can make it for you at home. Wherever you are in the world and whatever you're doing, create with people, connect with people, and be exactly you. Until the next time, peace.
Thank you.
There we go. Thank you very much.
That was great.